Start with the tenants
Sure. Michael Gore,
here.
Robert Romer,
Here.
Michael Lau,
Here.
Eric Nyland,
Here.
and it looks like James Barr and Austin Groner are absent.
Okay. First item on the agenda is an A&R for 160 and 164 Still River Road. This was the detached ADU we approved um, last year sometime, maybe. You want to give some details on this, Pam?
Sure, I'll zoom in on the area. It's a pretty minute parcel they're creating. Um, is that?
I don't see anything. Oh,
Sorry.
there it goes.
There we go.
Oh, there it goes.
Just took a minute. Okay, so as you remember, we approved, there was an existing house at 160 and we approved the existing house as an ADU and they were constructing a single family home. And it's next door to Broomfield Laboratories. Um, they've created this small sliver of parcel Y. They have sufficient area and frontage for both properties, and they're annexing a portion of parcel Y onto the Broomfield Laboratories parcel from the single family home lot. It still maintains a required 20-foot side yard setback, and that's to accommodate some parking and uses as best as they can for the laboratory.
Okay.
There
So
are
no
notes.
concerns.
No, there's no concerns. They explain that parcel Y is an unbuildable lot in the notes, and also that it will be adjoined with 164 Still River Road and become one parcel.
Yeah, is there a reason to not do that as part of this A&R, or does it just require a separate process?
No, this A&R will do that.
Oh, well, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that's what the note explains in the bottom left-hand corner here. It's in fine writing, but it's down here in this
Okay.
corner.
Okay.
Just explains it'll be combined.
Any board members have questions?
Not here.
Okay. All right, I will make a motion to approve the A&R for 160 and 164 Still River Road.
Seconded.
Michael Gore,
Aye.
Robert Romer,
Aye.
Michael Lau,
Aye.
and Eric Nyland.
Aye.
Okay, the A&R is entitled to endorsement by a vote of 4-0.
Okay, next item on the agenda is A&R for Tadmore definitive subdivision. And this is another lot adjustment, line adjustment.
Yeah, I think from the records, and I watched check the minutes and video from January. I think it was 11th of 2023. This plan was reviewed by the board and endorsed already, but the Mylar was misplaced and it was never recorded. So the applicant resubmitted the same plan for the board to consider. I'll just bring it up. So they adjusted as part of the Tadmore subdivision. This is open space parcel 3. On this A&R, it's referred to as parcel 3A, and they adjusted this lot line to accommodate a possible well location on parcel B, and that was to satisfy some of DEP's preliminary comments about well placement and the zone 1 radius being located on preserved open space. So in exchange for that area, to keep the square footage the same, they created parcel C to add on to the open space and parcel C2 to add on to the open space. So it's an even trade. And then this the dotted circles represent the peak drawdown that the well could accommodate for the parcel. And he stated that there's possibly be 2 wells located on parcel B, and this radius represents the protected zone 1 around each possible well location. They're not in place or approved as of yet, but that was considering some proposed preliminary uses that I think were previously presented to the board for the corner lot B1.
Okay, I remember this.
What's the status of those wells?
They're not, they've done some preliminary studies, but there's nothing in the ground or approved by DEP as of yet.
Be nice to know what the yield is.
Well, this was right. I mean, I forget who it was that came by to talk about a mixed use residential retail spot there. But they never came back after that. So
Yeah, I think Bruce Wheeler, he's been in contact with the town. Recently, he granted us an easement for the rotary at the intersection of Forbush Mill and Main, and he's also presented us some documents with the intent of having the town accept Goose Pond Path at the annual town meeting in May.
but nothing about developing that.
He
that
did,
lot
yeah,
there.
he did mention it, and he says he has some preliminary plans. He just hasn't gotten the time to sit down and really figure out exactly what he wants to do yet.
Okay. But those wells were intended for that parcel there, right?
It is, yes.
Yeah. Did that answer your question, Bob?
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the A&R for the Tadmore definitive subdivision, open space parcel 3A lot adjustment to the business zoning district.
Seconded.
Michael Gore,
Aye.
Bob Romer,
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye.
Michael Lau.
Aye.
Okay. The motion passes by a vote of 4-0.
Next item is continuation of bylaw reviews. And so we'll start with Cottage Overlay District. So Pam, you sent out the updated folder. There's a document dated January 3rd, 2025, which I believe that is the most recent edit that everyone should be working off of at this point.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So we had previously talked about floor to area ratio. I met with Bill Brookings and went over some of the, in a vague sort of way, Title V requirements. And he's explained to me in general that we should consider 10,000 square feet of area per bedroom for shared systems. There's a maximum amount of 10,000 gallons per day before you have to do a treatment plant. And so he said there's also a new nitrogen loading requirement, which also can't, in general, exceed that 10,000 gallons per day per bedroom it is. So
you first said a 10,000 square feet. What was that? That
10,000
was
square,
lot
I'm sorry,
size?
10,000 square feet of lot area.
Per bedroom?
Yes. Which equates to,
Quarter acre per bedroom. Is that?
yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
and an acre per 4-bedroom home.
And does it matter? Well, so last meeting we talked a lot about not specifying bedrooms and leaving it up to a square foot, like a maximum square footage of the unit. But I guess to Bill's point, it really depends more on the number of bedrooms and not the square footage.
Yeah,
of
for
the
our
house.
purposes, if we were on sewer, that might be a easier avenue, but because we have to deal with private septic services, even if they're shared, we have that density maximum that can't be exceeded without use of a special system that has to be considered by DEP. So
Yep.
we went through the requirements, and an additional requirement which Bolton has, which is not in Title V, is that all wells have to be located 50 feet from all property lines. I spoke to him about any studies that may impact wells that get drilled next to abutting wells. He said there's really not a way that you can address those concerns. He's seen wells 20 feet apart from each other that have vastly different groundwater levels, and you really don't know until you dig down and try and reach the well. He gets asked that a lot and by existing homeowners when there's new development going next to them. And he said, you really are just allowed to do what's permitted under Title V requirements. And there's really not a way to address exactly how abutting property would be affected.
I've regulates well use as well as septic.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that probably changes whether or not we call out the maximum number of bedrooms then, right?
We can consider Title V in setting the maximum amount of bedrooms. I did an example just to kind of get a handle on what the requirements would be. So on a 10-acre site, if we preserve 5 acres, we would be under, like, considering a yield plan and our phosphid requirements, it would result in 5 building lots. The cottage bylaw allows 2 times the allowable density, which would equate to a maximum of 10 dwelling units. And utilizing the current language that we have written in the cottage bylaw, 5 acres of open space can be utilized for the septic system placement. But Bill said you can consider the total parcel when you're using shared systems. So you can consider, and this is all based on system design, it's all contingent upon system design and percolation tests. But he said you can consider areas of open space when you calculate your density requirements for shared, if it's on shared systems. So we would be able to count the preserved open space as long as it was restricted. And 10 acres of total area equates to 435,600 square feet. And you divide that by the 10,000 square feet of area required for each bedroom. And that equates to a maximum of 44 bedrooms per Board of Health requirements. And I put the discharge there because there's a maximum 10,000 gallon requirement before you go into the DEP wastewater treatment plant requirements.
Okay, so in essence, that's 4.4 bedrooms per house, max, average.
Yeah, 44
Well,
bedrooms for the
Yeah,
site.
and if we limit
That's
that
for the
to,
site, not units.
yeah, if we limited
Right.
that to 3 bedrooms, that would be 15-ish, 14 and some change.
So
Which
we
is
can
fine.
place a maximum on the bedrooms, but no minimum, and allow that to set the density. That might be a better way to go.
And then people have a choice of doing 2 or 3
Or
or
a
even
mix.
1-bedroom places. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, a mix. I think a mix would be good, actually.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
So just
and-
considering the Board of Health, that seemed like the best way to regulate the density that's allowed, because they're going to overrule everything, anything
Yeah,
that we allow
yeah,
anyway.
But
Yeah.
isn't this saying in this example, like, that it's not even an issue, right? 44 bedrooms. So
No.
like, what happened to the square footage, idea that we were working with, where the two, we wanted to, like, you had the whole calculation for how much total square footage with the 5 acre. It was like 25,000 square feet or something.
Mhm.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Eric, this is what we just said, that it's the septic and all those requirements are really per bedroom, not based on the square footage of the total house.
Uh-huh. Right. But like, right now they can build giant units.
No, we have the maximum square footage of 2,000.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can keep
in the
that, but I
bylaw.
think, but we'd probably go back to capping the number. So, I mean, we don't want to have 4-bedroom houses, probably.
So this is
Well,
like
I
a,
don't know. You
this is
could,
like
I
a
suppose.
parallel equation, just so, it's buildable, whatever, but, so, yeah, it's
Yeah.
something different from what we were saying. Yeah.
Yeah, the intent's the same and it'll still allow the mix of units, but we're considering more Title V requirements than square to area ratio. That was kind of going to be a little arbitrary anyway. So this will set a maximum square footage per unit, and then we'll incorporate a maximum bedroom count of 3 per dwelling unit, and then they can choose the density mix. And it wouldn't create a greater impact because it still require the same septic and well treatment that would be required.
So that meets our objective of both reasonably sized houses and meeting Board of Health requirements, right?
I think so. I think if we include that maximum bedroom in there, it would promote a variety of housing units. Bill also said that DP's interpretation, which permitted the Craftsman's Village development, the 40B on Sugar Road, is no longer permitted. So you can't divide lots up in one development with different lots, with different wells to supply a development. He said they don't allow that anymore. So
What would they have to do? So you said that one has there's 4 wells that service all of the houses, and they're split up into groups.
yeah, they split them into groups to avoid the public water supply requirements.
Yep.
And he said
So
that DEP no longer allows that.
what would they have to do then?
They'd have to do a public water supply treatment.
Oh,
Even if they
There's
don't exceed 10,000 gallons per day?
well, that's Title V. The water supply is 26 or more people, and you
Okay,
have to equate for 2 bedrooms.
wait, 26 or more people on the entire, within the entire development?
He wasn't sure exactly, and I can ask him more specifically, but one project that services 26 or more people is considered a public water supply. They divided Craftsman's Village up into different properties with septic and well on each lot to avoid that requirement. There's 60 bedrooms on that in that project with 30 individual units.
But he's saying you can't do that anymore.
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
so if he developed it now, he would have to go for a public water supply regardless of how many well locations?
I believe that's what he was saying. Yes. And he said it's really up to DEP at that point. When you get over the 26 bedrooms, you have to get their interpretation on how they would apply their regulations.
Okay, but all that would do in what we're proposing is limit the number of residences that could use the same water supply.
Right. Or require a public water supply with a radius, which they could put in the open space lot.
Right.
Anything over 26 bedrooms, so 10, 2 and 3
No, 26 or
bedroom.
more people, 2 people per bedroom, so it's 13 bedrooms.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
But I mean, that would be 4 houses on a common well, right?
Depends on the number of bedrooms. It's
Well,
strictly
with
by,
maximum
yeah.
of 3 bedrooms. Which is not unreasonable.
Now, I mean, I don't know how much presumably the cost of doing a public water supply must be high enough if the Craftsman Village people, you know, did what they did to get around, to avoid it.
Well, yeah,
Well, I think there's the radius issue too, that you have to
Yeah.
remember that project doesn't have any open space.
Yep.
So it wasn't designed like we require the cottage and phosphorus to be designed.
I see.
They utilized a lot of that area for development.
and it's certified monthly testing, right?
For public water supplies, it is,
Yeah.
yes. And you have to have a water certified water operator and file annual reports. Have backup generators. There's a whole list of criteria
It's expensive.
that come into play
Yeah.
with a public water supply.
So I mean, this just kind of goes back to like, are we creating, and not that it's our issue, but it's like, are we going to pass a bylaw that no one's going to build because they have to go and do a public water supply?
Well, not if they have an arrangement where 4 houses share a well, right?
But I think that's what, Pam, that's what you just said. They can't do that anymore, right?
Yeah, no, they can.
I think he said they wouldn't be able to create lots just to avoid public water supply requirements. So I'm not actually
Yeah, if you think about it, right? If the whole thing
right.
is really, is 15 houses or whatever with 2 or 3 bedrooms, and you're like, no, it's not really one project of 15 houses. It's 3 separate 5 house projects. I can see how DEP would be like, well, no, you're skirting the rules. That's really that many
Mhm.
total and needs a public water supply.
I don't know if they were dealing with confined quarters because on that property there's also resource areas, wetlands. So I'm not sure if there's a distance. Well, I'll have to get more information from Bill on this, but I'm not sure if there's a distance between them where they'd be allowed to have two, where they would permit that avoidance from them all connecting into one system for under public water supply requirements. I'll have to find out additional information. I can't answer that.
But if we could give them an example that kind of in extremis with the maximum density allowable and the lots and a reasonable arrangement, and then is this doable?
Well, and I think this is the example that Pam has here. So 10 acre property, we preserve 5, and then so you build on 5 of the units, and it gives you 44 bedrooms. Now, according to what you just said, or how you interpreted what Bill said, that requires a public water supply and not some other clever way of doing shared wells.
Yeah, 13 bedrooms or more that share a common well have to qualify as a public water supply. I don't know if there's different degrees of that or if there was certain criteria involved in that project, which came into play and changed DEP's interpretation. But there's a similar project in Harvard where Bill said the Board of Health requirements change based on not Board of Health, but DEP's requirements change based on their interpretations.
Okay, but going the way we're suggesting, could we have 4 houses that share a common well? If you get to 13 or exceed 13, you have to go to a public water supply. If you have a group of houses that is less than that, you don't have to, right?
I don't know. I can't answer that definitively.
Well, I think if we could
Yeah.
answer that,
Mhm.
To Mike's point, make sure that it's a viable approach.
And again, it's like, that's not our requirement. It's not even the town's requirement. If that's just what DEP is doing, it almost it kind of surprises me because the state seems to be going, out of its way to increase housing production. Like, I mean, just the requirement that housing bylaws have a 50%, plus one to pass. Um, I'm surprised they would restrict something like, because that seems like it makes it a lot more cost prohibitive to build kind of
Mhm.
small cluster developments like this.
Yeah.
Well, and they also, from stuff that I've done with them, are pushing very, very hard for control of both water supplies and disposal. So they would love to see a sewage treatment system in Bolton rather than having individual septic systems. Their argument being that there's much more control of what's going into the ground. And correspondingly, there's much more control with the public water supply than individual wells, which people really don't get tested very often. So from a health perspective, that's their push. And there's an argument within DEP in a broader perspective that if you have a public water supply that is at some distance from the development, then you are drawing water out in a concentrated area that may have effect of other houses in the area. I mean, theoretically, the radius covers that. And then that other parallel argument is that if you have a sewage treatment system and a sewage treatment plant with a large leach field that is collecting and leaching out waste from a large area into a single area, you're not distributing recharge appropriately. And so there's that argument's going on right now in DEP. It's been going on for years. But if we can just get an answer out of them for that to make sure that what we're
Mhm.
proposing is really viable.
Okay.
And how about the shared septic? Were there any restrictions on that?
No, he said they'll just have to form a homeownership association agreement.
And is it like, I don't know, would it be that each house lot has its own tank, but then they all have a common leach field, or is it some mix of common tanks, shared leach fields?
I don't know. We just got into the general requirements for it and as a whole, I didn't ask about specific tanks.
What are the general requirements? I'm not,
The 10,000 square feet per bedroom and then the shared systems. He said shared systems can be problematic in that you have to do a Title V inspection every time someone in the association sells their property. So there's no exemption from that.
But that's not really different.
No, and it has to be within they're good for 2 years, so he said basically you have to do a Title V inspection every 2 years if there's enough people sharing the system.
But it would be interesting in parallel with looking at wells and water supply to look at the practicality of having shared systems with this kind of concentration if we continue with our requirement that they not be on common on open space.
the open space. Well, we're
We did,
saying we're 50% of the open space they can use, right? That's
yeah,
what we're saying.
we have it written that in the cottage, but we prohibited it in the phosphor, but in the cottage bylaw, we stated they could use half of the required open space for Title V requirements. But they can use the open space in its entirety to satisfy the density requirements.
So I guess I'm confused then about the relationship between the cottage overlay and phosphid. In one case, we're allowing it, in one case, we're not. Or we have different criteria for the use of open space for septic.
I think the
Oh.
intent of each of the bylaws is different. So where we wanted to create a variety of housing types at a greater density in the cottage overlay, we discussed allowing the septic systems and some of the stormwater treatments in the open space area, where the phosphid's really to preserve open space and concentrate development while keeping buffers around the development. The utilization of the open space to meet those requirements wasn't permitted.
I agree with that. And the fact that we expect the lot sizes in the just a traditional phosphid to be big enough to accommodate septic and
Mhm.
wells. We know that it's when we get into the density, because we have no water and we have no sewer, we have to do creative things to try to fit all the utilities onto the parcel.
So as a developer, why would I want to go for phosphid instead of cottage overlay?
The kind of housing that you build, whether you're good at building single family houses, that's what you know how to do, as opposed to maybe dense connected cottage style layouts. Maybe you are a spec builder and only, you think you'll be able to sell off 5 units easily, but maybe not 20. I don't know.
There would be very, very different market points. So it depends what your clients, what you're focusing on. You wouldn't be
Oh, I
able to
agree.
do
They're
the
very
large,
different. They're
Yeah.
very different objectives.
right?
Although the cottage overlay certainly has preservation of open space as part of it.
I mean, they both have the same 50% preservation.
Right. You just allowed to be more concentrated with cottage overlay. Okay, that's fine. I'm sorry.
And I mean, clearly, like, it, if you are, if you're just a house builder, right? Like, if you do cottage overlay, you do need it's. I mean, it's clear just from going over all this, like, you need to understand septic and water, you know, requirements very clearly, because that seems like the hardest part here.
Hey guys, just one quick question. First of all, apologies about being late. Um, just one question about would it be possible today for a developer to build something like a cottage, a set of like a cottage development style? Are there
Not
restrictions? Okay,
Yeah, no, they couldn't do that now with Bolton zoning bylaws. The places that have done it in Bolton and surrounding towns all used 40B
Mhm.
to to circumvent the local zoning and build
got
it.
it.
So we said that was what Craftsman did. So yeah, this would allow developers the choice of doing cottage style developments.
So the limitation was always a zoning limitation. It was not
Correct.
any other requirement about, bonuses or what have you. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, we have single family zoning with 1 lot per 2 acre parcel. That's all we really have for residential now.
Okay, but basically this allows the objective of 40B, but puts guardrails on it.
Yeah, 40B, the typical criteria maximum set for a community like this is 8 units per acre,
Neat.
believe it
Wow.
or not. So
And sure, if you had someone that knows how to build, shared septic and a public water supply, it's fine. It's not an issue. They could do that. With what we're proposing here.
yeah,
I,
there's
I
also
guess
more time and regulations to go through associated with this type of development. So
yeah.
there's that to consider as well.
Sorry, I was at practice still, so I wasn't totally hearing everything you guys were saying, but now I'm home and can hear it. So what are you saying? So in this example that you'd have 44 bedrooms with a maximum square footage of 2,000, but you can have more than 10 dwelling units, right?
Well, we can't the way it's written because we've just said 2x
Yeah.
the density. So
So
if
I
it were,
don't like that because I thought we were saying last time that with your 5 acre, whatever calculation you came up with was 25,000 square feet. And we said that you can like put as many units as you can in there with 25 square feet, as long as they were no bigger than 2,000. So like now
I
we've
think-
reduced with this calculation, we've reduced like the number of units that
This-
there could be.
This is Title V requirement, so.
Well, I understand. So to me, it seems like I
So-
don't know why we're talking Board of Health at all in this bylaw. I mean, the developer will have to meet it, but I don't see that it's necessary for us to be dealing with these items in this bylaw. To me,
Well-
I just
but
We didn't
if we
want
pass
to,
a, go ahead, Pam.
I'm sorry, we didn't want to create a bylaw that wasn't usable.
oh,
Or,
I understand.
so-
we
so
should
now-
make sure it's usable for sure,
Right.
and that
So-
it meets it. But I don't know why we even need to talk about it personally.
No,
Well,
because
I
we
mean,
were,
we have
Eric, we
to.
were discussing instead of creating something that differs from Title V and creating different criteria, setting a bylaw that creates a bedroom count based on the square footage of the lot, and then creating a maximum on those bedrooms per unit of 3. And they can do however mix of variety of unit mixes based on that maximum bedroom count, which is based on the square footage of the property.
So you're not limiting it to 10 units then?
No,
Okay, so
Okay.
that I was just confused by the wording that was in there.
Well, we
Well,
haven't, because that's still in there. We haven't actually taken that out at this point.
Oh, okay.
right.
All right.
This is just for discussion to see if that's the route we want to take when we move this forward.
You're saying, okay, so on a 10-acre parcel, you can have up to 44 bedrooms. And we're saying a maximum unit size of 2,000, right?
Mhm. Yep.
And whatever mix of units then.
A maximum bedroom count per unit of 3, but you can do as many dwelling units as you want with that mix of bedrooms.
With up to 44 bedrooms.
Right.
So if you had 3, what's the math? That's like 13 to 14. If they did it
14,
all
almost
3
15.
bedroom.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And so a mix of 2 and 3 would give you a good number of houses on a 10-acre parcel.
So the minimum number of units would be 13 if they did all 3 bedrooms. But if they did a mix, then they could even get more.
It's 13 to 22, depending on the mix.
13 to 22. Okay.
It's 14, but yeah.
14 to 22.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. I understand now. Thank you. Sorry, so many bouncing balls. I couldn't hear you.
That's okay.
So the final action of this would be we take out the language of 2x density compared to phosphorus. I forget how we even called it out. And just set what do? We set a maximum number of bedrooms per what? We don't want to just do it per 10 acres. We want to do it like per acre or something. I mean,
I thought
how would we
do
actually
just
write it
follow
down?
one bedroom per 10,000 square feet of buildable area. So you set aside your 50% of the lot and then allow 1 bedroom per 10,000 square feet of remaining area.
So it's like a yield calculation we're laying out here.
Yep.
And
And-
so
and
10
we're
acres,
placing-
that 10 acres works out, that math works out to 44 bedrooms.
Yeah, that would be, so this, I'm sorry, I stated that wrong. You'd be allowed to develop on the 5 acres of property, but you could consider the total square footage of the entire parcel when calculating your bedroom count. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And then one thing I wasn't clear with, like, so they can put septic on the on half of the open space.
The way it's written now, they can use half of the required preserved open space for stormwater and Title V requirements.
Okay.
Water and or septic.
And we allowed the stormwater because we're not allowing an increase in discharge of volume from the property, which requires additional area for recharge on the lot. So in exchange of that, to address some of the water issues, we allowed for the stormwater to be placed within the open space.
And that's realistic here. So 2.5 acres, we'd be able to fit.
No, we have a 10-acre minimum, so the entire.
Well, he's saying on 2.5 acres of the open space.
Oh,
So,
I'm sorry.
50%
so 5
of the
acres of the open
yeah.
space, 2.5.
50%
set
of the
aside.
50%
Mhm.
would be able to fit a shared septic and also stormwater runoff and all that stuff, right?
Well, they'd have to use some of the 5 buildable acres as well for that, is my assumption. I don't think that you would need 5 acres for the 13 lots, depending how you lay it out.
Okay, I see.
And what's so our restriction for how close the buildings could be? We have just like some space between units or something.
Yeah, I think we have 20 feet between
Okay.
buildings in general, and then we allow up to 4 units per building in townhome style development.
Okay.
What's the
20 feet-
purpose of that
20 feet's
20
pretty
feet?
small, but sure they would figure it out. Leave them options.
To create space between detached structures.
Yep. It's good.
So it'd be like if you had lots, it'd be a 10-foot side yard setback, which
Yep. Yeah, I don't
And-
think, yeah, not having lots is good. Let them develop whatever makes sense on that particular plot.
And did Bill seem to think that this was doable based on kind of what we're saying? Or was he like, nah, it's gonna be too hard, too expensive?
he gave me these standards, so I didn't have them written down when I met with him. So I'll review these with him and go over the shared public water supply stuff.
Yep.
And see if there are options how to create different wells to avoid that, or if it seems doable, and I can report back to you fairly quickly.
Do you think that so maybe we look at this one more time the next time? Well, I mean, it's already January. Can we get
Mhm.
like some realtors or developers in at our next meeting just to like let them tell us what they think about what we're talking about here?
Yeah, we can do that. I just want to make sure we're in a viable path, and then I can post them all, and we can start getting
Yeah.
input from
Yeah.
staff and the public.
I
Usually
wouldn't
we
do
had
that
a
on the
hearing.
next meeting. I wouldn't do it on the next meeting because I don't think we're there yet.
Mhm.
But on the one afterwards, because I don't think they're gonna like a realtor is not gonna know this sort of nitty gritty about the
Yeah. Well, I
septic
mean,
and
it'd be
water and stuff.
good to know if they, like how well does Bolton Woods Way sell, that sort of thing. I mean, because that's kind of what we're modeling, I guess. Like, are these units thought after? I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
well, it
mean-
would be amazing if you had some smaller or something like that. It would be nice
Yeah.
to know like what the market is looking for. Is all I'm saying.
true. But at the
That
same
can
time, I
change
mean,
too, so
exactly,
Yeah.
we
exactly.
want to
We're
meet
building.
we
Yes.
want to meet our housing needs more
Yeah,
than the
understood.
current market demands.
All right. Well, then maybe it's more developers. Maybe it's more developers we want to talk to.
I think we'd probably target more developers and the engineering firms that commonly work in the town.
And I mean, actually, it would be amazing if like Mark O'Hagan could take a look at it.
I think that'd be great.
Okay, so just to kind of, so we need to get some more answers from Bill, rewrite this part of it to pull out the restrictions on density, have more examples like like this one here, which is great.
Mhm.
Um,
One
what was his-
one other thing I wanted to just suggest is to make the terminology concrete. So like total buildings, a total acreage, versus buildable acreage versus if we can kind of lay out all the different terminology, I think that'd be very, very helpful.
Sure.
and so back to the bedroom count. Um, so do we still want to restrict? I know before we kind of pushed back on doing the bedroom count because we said, well, even a 2,000 square foot house, you could have 4 bedrooms pretty comfortably in that. Do we want to have the bedroom count, or are we back to specifically trying to get this to be 2 and 3 bedroom maximum houses? It's kind of based on if again we just give them a yield plan of, okay, well, you can have a maximum of 44 bedrooms and it's up to you to do whatever you want, whether that's 1, 2, 3, 4 bedroom houses. Presumably they wouldn't build a bunch of 4 bedroom houses, but maybe, I don't know.
But
I'm just throwing that out there.
They could build a mix of them, right? They could,
Yeah,
have a few 4 bedrooms and then the rest could be 2 and 3.
exactly. And so do we even want to call out what the bedroom count should be, or just leave it at 2,000 square foot maximum size house and you're limited to 44 bedrooms per 10 acres?
Yeah, if they can put 4 bedrooms and 2,000 square feet, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean,
Although
my house is 1,900 square feet. We have 4 bedrooms.
Yep.
I
The
think
bathrooms
maybe
are tiny, but
we might want to cap it at 4 though, because I think getting beyond that is probably not something that a developer would.
I mean, I guess that's just like, is it naturally capped there just based on the square footage of 2,000?
Maybe, I don't know.
So T,
Is 2,000 the number we want to go with? Is 1,800 too low for the max?
I was wondering that because the state came up with some grandfathering provisions for lot mergers for undersized lots. Anyway, the exemption to that is that they construct a single family home with a maximum square footage size of 1,850. And the intent of that is to create more starter home inventory on property.
That's
So
what I'm saying. I still think 2,000 is a big house. I mean, not compared to other Bolton houses, but like the Bolton Woods Way houses, I think are, they're not above 2,000. I'd like to know like what their kind of like design are, but I think they're probably closer to 1,800 than 2,000.
Well,
And to-
if that was the state's philosophy when they proposed 1850, why don't we take advantage of that and use 1850?
but you said that's for lot mergers. Is that so?
yeah, I don't think it would. So when there's a statute in Mass General Law that if you own 2 buildable lots and then there's a zone change, after a certain amount of time, if they're held in common ownership, they're considered merged to meet the current zoning requirements. So if you had, like Bolton had 40,000 square foot lot size requirement and it got increased to 80, if you had 2 40,000 square foot lots that adjoined each other and you kept them in common ownership 5 years after the zone change, they would be considered merged and you would no longer have 2 buildable lots. You would only have 1 buildable lot. And that's been the case for many years in the state. So they recently, with the ADU requirements and as part of the housing bond bill, gave an exemption to that lot merger requirement and will consider those lots as 2 buildable lots, with the caveat that the maximum square footage for a single family home that can be constructed on each lot is 1,850 square feet.
But isn't that sort of a parallel to what we're trying to do?
Yeah, I think it is because they're saying, well, we want starter homes and they're considering a starter home 1,850 max.
Yeah, I think it's a good argument for the square footage maximum.
I mean, I just think 2,000 is still a pretty big house. It's not a cottage, I don't think.
I agree. It's not big compared to what we've seen in the town recently, but
Yeah.
I think it certainly is a decent sized home.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
The difference
So
is
that-
150 square feet, right? So that's like one extra room.
Yeah. And I mean that unit is really kind of, or that number is up to us. Like that's not taken into account in any of the DEP calculations because those are all based on number
Oh.
of bedrooms.
Right.
But it is a mechanism to
Smaller.
encourage houses to be smaller.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think if we leave that 2,000 number, we're going to end up with four, whatever our max bedroom size is, they're going to all be 2,000. I don't know. I really want to encourage it to be smaller. I don't want them to just build to the max. I want to encourage it to be smaller if possible.
So I mean, I think the two open questions are: do we want to reduce the 2,000 to some other number, and do we want to cap the bedrooms at 3 or 4? Because again, they could build 1,000 square foot house, multiple 1,000 square foot houses based on this. Like especially if we remove the 2x requirement, now they have more flexibility in the number of units they build,
Mhm.
and they could say, okay, we can do 4 times as many 1,000 square foot houses.
So if we're thinking of like a new home buyer, say married couple, no kids, or one kid, or people looking to downsize, so they really only need 1 bedroom. I mean, I don't see the need for 4 bedroom. I would put the max at 3. I mean, personally, if we say 2,000 and 4 bedrooms, that's what we're going to get. And to me, that's like what, $800,000 units. That's not a starter home.
But
Yeah,
Eric,
it's possible.
isn't the incentive to build smaller already there, right? Or they're trying, if I were a developer, I'd want to maximize the space that I have available. And so I'd want to build 3 1,800 square foot houses instead of 2,000 square foot houses or something like that.
Mhm.
So there already is that incentive to build smaller because they can fit more units on there.
Yeah, but like, I'm just worried it becomes like a Fosford Plus, where it's like, okay, maybe the houses aren't, 3,000 square feet, but they're still 4 bedroom, 2,000 square feet, $850,000, $900,000 houses. And now they got like 13 of them on the same lot. So it's like, okay, it's not quite a cottage overlay. It's a little bit smaller houses, but it's not where we want to go. It's not what what we have in our mind, I don't think.
No, I agree with that. So cap the number of bedrooms at 3. Is everyone okay with that?
Mhm.
I mean, I'd be interested to hear what a developer would have to say on that. If he was like, "Oh, we can never build,"
Well, I
I don't
mean,
know.
we have a good example of I keep forgetting the name of it, but we brought it up a couple meetings ago that whatever that Pam helped me out. What's the development that they just built? And I think those are like 2 bedroom houses, technically
Where?
cottages. Do you remember the name of what I'm trying to say here?
No. Sorry. In Bolton or
Yeah, it's in Bolton. Yeah,
Oh, the
oh, the
the over 50,
Craftsman
the over
Village?
55, the over
not
55 one,
yeah, not Craftsman Village, but
the one
Oh,
on South Bolton Road.
Mallard Lane.
Oh, okay. Mallard. Yeah. Those are age
900.
restricted.
Yes, but they're uh 2 bed, 3 bath, which is crazy. 2,170 square feet, $950,000.
2,071 square feet, you said?
2,170 square feet.
Oh, okay.
Um, so
2 bedroom and
uh
it's 100 square feet.
yeah, 3 bathrooms.
That's weird.
That
Yeah.
is weird.
It's probably 2.5, I would guess, but maybe I'm wrong.
Sure, but still,
Yeah.
that doesn't make it any better. Um, so yeah, the 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom version of that 2,009 square feet is 870,000. So now these are still in the market. They haven't sold. I don't even know if they've been built actually, or if these are just like concept spec houses, but
There's
whatever.
one framed not occupied. It's not
Okay.
complete. And there's only one foundation in
Okay.
for that
Um,
framed unit.
Yeah. Now, I mean, they're going after they're going after a luxury market clearly with that. And that's not what we want. So yeah, if we drop the square foot, I mean, so 1850, like that number has no meaning other than it's smaller than 2000 and it's the same as a number that the state used. I'm
And the
okay with
state is
that.
using them to encourage smaller houses, right?
True.
Affordable houses, I should say.
Yeah.
But what
Yeah.
about more affordable four-bedroom houses as well? I don't want that to be sort of left out as well for larger families, right, who are looking for more affordable houses too. I feel like that kind of limits our choices here.
So agreed. Now I guess the question is this the bylaw to try to tackle that? Or is this bylaw trying to get small, denser housing with a primary target audience of people trying to downsize, age in place in town at a smaller house, or starter families coming in.
Mhm.
So if that's sort of what we're going for, then I sort of agree that the 4 bedroom one really isn't. Maybe there's some other way we can tackle that. I'm not totally sure how, but
Okay, so the question is 3 or 4 bedrooms, but we're sticking with 1850 square feet.
just throwing it out there if that's the number. I mean, so Eric seems to think 2000 is too high.
Yeah,
Um,
I think so.
so we have to pick some other number, whether
Well,
it's
you guys can go against me.
what's that?
I said you don't have to agree with me, but
No,
that's
no,
what
I agree with you. I
I
think
agree with you.
2000's big.
so if are people good with 1850 and then 3 bedroom cap?
I like it.
Yeah, I like it.
I like it. Yeah, I think I think let's throw that stake in the ground now, and then
Okay.
we can shop that around to people and see what sort of feedback we get.
Okay. And I'll meet with Bill again with those changes.
Yeah.
And make sure he thinks it's doable and get info about the well.
Okay. Um. So now to kind of Austin's point, actually, now that just got me thinking. And again, like my house, 1900 square feet, is on a 1 acre parcel. It's from 1970, I think. So, I mean, Pam, could we ever change zoning bylaws back to 1 acre parcel if the maximum house built on it was 1850 square feet or less? Is that would
It'd
that be
have to,
something doable?
we'd have to, and allow the 2 family, like an either or option, provide that as a density bonus.
Nothing to do with the state. I'm just saying conceptually, is that a thing we could do to help, ease that sort of starter home affordability of like you make a 4 bedroom,
Yeah, I believe
1850
we could
square.
do that.
You might have mentioned it in one of the previous meetings. I don't remember why we moved from a 1 acre to a 2 acre minimum. Was it just exclusionary sort of stuff,
I think
or was
so.
it,
Exclusionary.
yeah, or was there some because you need to I mean, because you need to have so much space for a backup septic and so much distance from a well, maybe this, no, okay,
You can fit
exclusionary it is.
Yeah, that was not the intent, but with I can't remember the survey that was done in the mid-70s by the state, 802, rings a bell. I've got a copy of it. They lauded Bolton for its 2 acre zoning from an environmental perspective with water and sewage.
Yeah.
At 2 acres. And we came out on pretty much on top of the heap in eastern Massachusetts.
So what were they lauding us for? That
That we
because
had
we're
enough acreage per house so that we could reasonably accommodate both
I see.
septic and wells.
I
Yeah,
think
so
the
I don't know. I
opinion
don't
on
know.
that has flipped now by the state.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I've
I don't,
driven past two houses so there's one on Main Street as you're going west. Um, that's just near Pond, maybe just after Pondside, that just redid its septic and its front yard there, and it is a small yard, and they put it looks like the full system there, the tank and the leach field. So it is a tiny spot that they put it on. So I have got to imagine that the requirements for septic must have changed a lot over the
Oh,
years, and
they
they can
have.
do it more efficiently.
Yeah, and if you look at the lot on the west side of the town common, they did the same thing.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
that
I mean,
was,
is it behind in the backyard there? I mean, I don't know where it is.
yes,
That one.
it's actually a raised bed with a retaining wall, very tall retaining wall all the way around it.
Yeah.
But it's
So
basically a sand pit.
okay. So this is I think this is good progress. And then what's left, I mean, I don't know if we need to go through and what else needs to happen with the rest of it. I know we called out a lot of the architectural details. I don't know if we want to and I assume all those came from our original pass at this a few years back.
The
Um,
design stuff was new from the state's model.
which section?
What page am I on? Architectural details?
And
Yeah.
some of that reflected Randall.
No, this is from the state model for cottage bylaws.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And you have to pick four, I think we have written, five of these design elements to incorporate into your project.
Okay.
Porches, patios.
Um, I don't want to, go too much longer on this one here, but Pam, do you think there's anything else that we need to focus on?
That's really been the big issue. The rest of it is, we have we do have that, there is no exemption from our inclusionary bylaw in this. We actually reference it. So
Yep.
they would be required to provide 25% to provide it's about 15%. There's a range in the inclusionary bylaw, one for every 6 units, basically.
Mhm.
As affordable as defined by the state in 40B.
Parking, were we okay with parking, or did we want to? I think we said no street parking, right?
I think we have 2 spaces.
Yeah.
For each dwelling unit. With the exception of 1-bedroom units, which would require 1.
And did we call out the facing of garages in this?
I wrote it as an option, a preferred option, which can be waived by the board.
Garages are front facing, okay.
Rear entry garages, back lanes. So these are design elements that are encouraged but can be waived.
Okay, great.
So
Anything else that
encouraged.
we need to talk about with cottage overlay tonight?
Just one last point about the the square footage and the number of bedrooms, not to go back to that, not to beat a dead horse. I think I just want to clarify my point. I think I agree that the 1850 square feet I think is a reasonable max, but I think I still disagree that 3 bedrooms. I think you could fit 4 bedrooms in that. So that's my opinion. I just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah, no, so I mean, I agree. I mean, I'm living in a house that's basically that.
Right.
But I think to Eric's point earlier, like you wouldn't look at my house and call it a cottage. And I think if the goal of this is to make it some sort of a cottage feel, and including the sort of design criteria that's called out from the state, 3 bedrooms does seem more cottagey. Um, but I fully agree with you that I think we should try to do something more for like a traditional 4 bedroom house. And that's why I brought up the if we could move that back to a 1 acre parcel for, if you limit the square footage of the house that it's on.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe
I actually
that's how-
like that. I actually like that idea. I guess you run into, you'd have to put in the bylaw that, if it is a 1 acre, you can't build it. People couldn't add an addition later or something. If you limit the size house, I don't know how.
Yeah,
how you
I mean,
do
we'd
that.
have to find some way of doing it, but it's,
Yeah.
I mean, if the state can do that with its, with the
Yeah.
the mixed part, there must be some language that we can put in to do it.
Mhm.
And again, I'm not proposing that for this year, obviously, but
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea, actually. Yeah.
okay. All right, so Pam, you'll make some updates there, get some answers from Bill, and then we can hopefully start nailing this one down maybe in the next meeting.
Yes.
But this is good. I'm happy with kind of where we're landing on this. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Good.
Okay. Any other bylaw revisions we want to talk about? So ADU should be fine. Floodplain, I think was okay. Phosphid, I think I think in the last meeting we pulled out some of the density stuff, right? And change. We're basically making phosphid to be the big changes are 50% open space up from 33 and introduce Randall's design criteria. Were those the
Right.
major changes? I don't think anything
Yeah,
else.
we didn't take the density out, but we talked about it, but I haven't eliminated it yet. I didn't know we came to a conclusion on that.
I don't know if other people remember. I kind of think that's where we were landing on it, was to not confuse that.
Yeah, I think we didn't want to propose both higher density bylaws in one
Yeah.
town meeting, and but I don't know that we reached a definitive agreement on that. So it's still in there, though. It's easy enough to.
I don't even remember what
delete.
we were talking about. So I get the discussions confused. So
Yeah,
what?
I'll pull it up.
Yeah, I don't recall now.
Well, and if it confuses us, it's only going to confuse people in town more. And if they,
Yeah.
again, I think the changes that we're suggesting for Phosphid based on, everything we did with Randall, and the biggest one just being the 50%, moving from 33 to 50%, like those are just good changes to make.
Mhm.
And let's just do those and not get them,
Yeah.
potentially tied up in.
If we have 2 bylaws where we're talking about density, then people are gonna be like, "What is going on here?"
Yeah, I
exactly.
agree. I
Mhm.
agree.
Pam, are you
No, I
gonna,
mean, sorry, Bob, go ahead.
are you gonna run the proposed phosphid by the Conservation Commission?
Yes, and the land trust.
Yeah, the Conservation Trust as
Yeah,
well.
I'll start pushing the ADUs and phosphid out once I delete that density bonus.
Okay.
Because we're gonna have to do some public outreach and get that going for people to review.
Interestingly enough, it was really the trust that created the first one.
Phosphid.
Yep,
Yeah, and I mean, they should be totally happy with this. I mean,
I think they'll be very happy with it, but
yeah,
out of courtesy,
definitely. Okay, anything else on bylaw reviews?
Just time frame wise, we were talking about that. In the past, we've done our public hearing on the second meeting in February, so that's just 3 meetings from now. And
Yeah,
don't
the
know.
final bylaws are required to be submitted to the town administrator by March 12th.
So maybe we can have the public hearing the first week in March or something if we need the time.
I think we should do it in February and allow a few meetings for comments and revisions that may occur as a result of any public meetings.
Well,
Um,
it would be one meeting. If we did the public hearing the end of February, we'd have one meeting in March to kind of
Sure, to
Yeah.
do revisions.
Yeah, that should
before
be
we have
okay.
to come in.
I mean, that's what we always do, right? It's at end
Yeah.
of February is,
I'm not
Yeah.
sure is that pretty typical? Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what we've
kind
done
of
in the past. We haven't done bylaw revisions for a few years now, so.
Yeah, but the public hearing is where the board votes on it officially, you know.
No, that's not true.
No?
We don't have
I thought
to.
it was.
No, the public hearing is just to like be like, we're giving the public a chance, a publicly notified hearing.
Okay.
I don't think,
But we don't have to officially vote on it then, you're saying?
no, because that's the thing, is we get feedback, then incorporate it and
Got
come
it.
back and vote on it later.
It's been a while. I don't
Yeah.
remember things past 4 years.
No. Trying to think.
How did the revisions get presented at the town meeting?
Well, that's why
So at the town meeting, in the past we've split it up, but or sometimes I'm perfectly fine with the chairman doing it all. But typically they have to go up and they present it, the chairman or somebody. And so there's a little spiel saying,
So, yeah,
I
well, hold on.
publicly
So
vote
step back just 1 second, because Austin, you asked specifically about the changes, right? So yeah, what we'll do is we'll propose, our articles. We'll have a public hearing for those in February where it's noticed to everyone that they can come and comment on them.
Mhm.
After we vote on them, they're submitted to the select board. They'll vote on them also. And that all gets packaged up and included in the town warrant. And the town warrant will have a little blurb for each one and how the planning board voted on it and how the select board voted on it. And then during town meeting, like Eric mentioned, someone from the board will go up and typically introduce each article and talk through it and field questions from the town if they have any.
And is there a chance to have any like materials, like examples?
Yes.
Or
Yep.
okay.
Sure.
Yep. So for cottage, we would definitely want to have, some slideshow pictures of what, what we're envisioning, development could look like under that bylaw.
Mhm.
The other ones, I don't think we would really need. I mean, we could do something for Phosphid, but it's really not. We can just say, hey, we've worked because the town is conserving more land with our new Phosphid.
That seems like a
Okay.
good strategy to me. I
Yeah.
think if we essentially downplay the changes to Phosphid in order to make way for discussion on the cottage overlay, I think that would be the best strategy.
Yeah, and ADU, I guess, maybe we'd have, if we don't have examples directly in the bylaw itself, then we'd maybe have just kind of a one pager that we could project that just gives examples of what a max, a couple different house sizes and what the maximum building on each one could be.
Lauren Ducat, the land use administrative assistant, is preparing some slideshows
Awesome.
just for us to post on our website about each bylaw, and we can I'll give those to the board at the next meeting for you to review.
Okay.
That's for ADUs,
That's great.
and we can just take what the important pieces out of that and use them for town meeting. From what I'm hearing from other communities, municipalities that already allowed ADUs have had no problem with the amendments to comply with the state regs. So it's been a pretty easy bylaw pass, and we only require majority for that because it's a housing production bylaw. So
We're still not increasing this beyond what we allow today. It's just, we're
Yeah.
just shuffling things around. And I presented the detached ADU one a few years ago, and we had no pushback on it at
Oh,
all.
good, good. The only contentious thing is the lack of ownership residency requirements, but that's out of our control. It's a state
Yeah.
regulation.
Yep, exactly.
Hey, Pam, what constitutes a housing production bylaw?
Anything that promotes housing, the allowance of housing construction,
So like the cottage overlay would be?
the cottage overlay, the Fosford, and the ADUs are all majority vote.
Okay, so, right, great, thank you. That's been
FEMA's
challenging
super,
at best.
yeah, I bet. FEMA and the sign by law will be a super majority.
We should talk about
Also,
the sign bylaw at some point, but you can send that out whenever you have it.
yeah, I have a draft on it. It's just not quite ready. I'll get it out next week.
Okay. All right.
Our bylaw is pretty broad, so it just kind of tightens up the requirements about what is a sign and what's allowed where.
And it's still gonna be under the selectmen's purview?
Well, typically signs, not every sign permit has to be reviewed typically. If it meets the bylaw requirements, they can just be issued a sign permit.
That's not how it's been done.
Yeah,
Everybody
I
has to go.
know. I know. I'm just typically in other communities. I know that's not how it's done now, and I don't know I think that's something we want to get away from. I think they probably have more urgent matters to
It seems so like,
address.
'cause I try to watch the selectmen's meetings. It seems so like come kiss the ring type situation, you know, like, oh, your business.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Yep,
Right. So we're not proposing that we take that power away from them this meeting, right? This town meeting, or is that part of your draft?
The draft would be if it complies just to have them get the sign permit,
No. Okay.
as they would a building permit for a structure.
Have you talked to Marie or anyone else?
Marie, I've
And
talked to Marie. I haven't presented the draft to her yet, but the concept that I've discussed with her was to create a bylaw that has stricter requirements about what's allowed. Ours is very vague. And then if it meets those requirements, then they apply for a sign permit, which would be the same process as, say, a building permit application, and it goes through an administrative process and gets issued. Variations from that sign bylaw can still have the option to go to the select board for relief.
Yeah, that's so much better. I mean, it's
yep, much better.
it's basically sign as of right, as long as you meet these regulations. No backlighting, whatever we say.
Right.
Uplighting. I forget what we say, but
can we somehow say that benefits housing production, so we only need a majority of it?
At the stretch.
I wish.
Okay, good. Any other discussions on bylaws?
No, at our next meeting, I just wanted to mention, we can't discuss it, but there was a project on 189 East Bear Hill Road in Harvard. The property was located on Warner Road in Bolton, and they received a variance for frontage. So the applicant went through that process. It was granted. They received relief for the construction of 2 single-family homes. The homes will be located in Bolton. The frontage is in Harvard, mostly. A little portion of it is in Bolton. But because they can't divide the property through the A&R process due to insufficient frontage, they will have to come to you, which will occur on the January 22nd meeting, for definitive subdivision approval to create lots without sufficient frontage.
Subdivision, how does that even? Well, you said we can't discuss it, but
We can discuss in concept why it requires definitive
sure,
subdivision.
yes, love
Okay.
to know that.
So you can only divide lots with insufficient frontage through the subdivision process, The only criteria the creation of lots requires through the A&R process is that the property have sufficient frontage. So if you want to create a buildable lot without that sufficient frontage, the only way to create those lot lines is through the definitive subdivision application.
And so what do then we need to do? Like actually go through a subdivision process with
With a
them?
lot of waivers, yep.
Oh my God.
Some communities in their subdivision control regs, and this is something we probably should consider, though I know it hasn't come up very frequently, is a whole section in your subdivision regs, which has a definitive insufficient lot frontage application. So it creates almost an application still under the definitive subdivision MGLs, but it creates a much less rigorous application process, so more similar to an A&R, because basically that's really what it is.
Why can't they go to our ZBA to get a waiver on the frontage? Is that,
They did, so they're required to go through both process. When you
Oh,
don't have
really?
enough frontage, you have to get the variance from the bylaw requirements, but then to create those lots on a plan, you have to do a definitive subdivision plan. You can't do it through a approval not required,
I
because
thought you
by
said they went, oh,
definition,
sorry.
by definition, the A&R 81P requires that each lot created have sufficient frontage in accordance with your bylaw.
I see. But you said they went to the Harvard ZBA, not the Bolton ZBA?
No, they went to the Bolton ZBA.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Do you envision that being like a long agenda item?
Not at all.
Okay, great. That's all I wanted to know. But
You never
think
know,
next,
but
well, yeah, but I think next meeting is critical in trying to lock down these bylaws as much as we can. I don't want to get bogged down in like an hour and a half discussion saying whether they need a, you know, whatever they need for a subdivision. Okay.
all right, so I'm gonna meet
Uh,
with Bill this Friday. And I'll have answers to you early next week on the cottage
Awesome. Thank you.
and his interpretation of what we're proposing.
Okay. Well, and I suppose that agenda item brings us right into other business. So besides random variances, any other business you have for us, Pam?
No, I think we have enough going on between now and Goose
Is there
Pond
any-
Path has petitioned for street acceptance, so we'll be working on that. Part of that
What was that?
process. Goose Pond Path will has petitioned the town for street acceptance.
Okay.
Is that
Part of that,
from the high school?
I'm sorry, what's that?
I think, yeah, it's diagonal from the high school across.
Yep,
Quincy.
that one.
Yep, okay.
So I saw on the A&R that it was from Tadmore Shops. So is that kind of like the group that's trying to get a business there, or what is?
Yeah,
Or
it
is
was
it-
all, I think it's all the same applicant.
So yeah, but that different. The Tadmore, the thing that the A&R we did earlier was for that a piece of property on the business zone, like not
Yeah, I
within
understand.
not
So
within
did
the subdivision.
they created like a separate like LLC or something to develop that, or I don't know what they do, but it's like
Yeah,
a different
probably.
name. Yeah. What about Colonial Candies? Any update on potentials there? Or?
No, I haven't heard anything,
Mhm.
and I haven't gotten phone calls.
And did you say at some point that Kathy was from a Kane property was looking for a potential warehouse bylaw, or she had some interested warehouse still?
No,
Or
that was presented to the planning board. I'm
That's what
pretty sure
that's
you
what
were
they brought to
here.
us a while back.
oh yeah, but I thought was there anything new from her on that or no?
No, she'd like to know what the town wants at the property, because I think she's feeling a little frustrated in that her last few proposals have all been voted down. So she's looking to the town to provide some guidance on what we would be willing to accept on the property.
What is she saying by voted down? Because what, like a while back, there was
I-
potential talk of warehouse, but we never had an official vote on that.
Yeah, so I think she's saying like that we were not receptive when they came in with the warehouse proposal,
Oh, okay.
which
Yeah.
and my advice to her would be like she should have come to us first and discussed that idea before going through all the
Got it.
additional work, right?
Yep, got it.
And you're right, we didn't vote anything down, but we clearly weren't super in favor of that.
Yeah, she
yeah,
mentioned a
got it.
previous town meeting
Yeah, so that was like
proposal. Okay,
that was like
Long time ago.
2015 or something like that.
hmm
Like she had a whole Market Basket Plaza kind of like
It was
lined
gonna
up.
be Market Basket, so
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Traffic.
We didn't know that at the time,
And
but-
actually, with our bylaws today, because like in 2020 or 2019, we went from 8% coverage to 20% coverage. So what they wanted to do then would actually pass our bylaws today. It was what she needed back then was she needed to rezone the residential.
Yeah.
The residential need to be considered business and to get the 8% coverage because I think 12%
She
coverage
still
would
needs
have
to
been.
rezone the property back there. I'm almost that was what it was. Like it had
Yeah,
to rezone the property
back then she did, but today she wouldn't have to.
because
'cause
some
she
of it's
has
still
the coverage.
residential back there. I think she still does.
Maybe she needs the space. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Any more about the corner of Hudson Road and 117 there that they were gonna do kind of a subdivision or something?
that was part of her Amazon, the warehouse. I keep saying
Oh.
Amazon, but it was part of it wasn't Amazon. It was part of the general
Oh,
warehouse construction. They were going
Yeah.
to take a portion of that parcel and do
Mhm.
housing construction for 55 and over, but they didn't
Okay.
want to separate
Got
the
it.
two projects. They had to go together. So
Then once I get past a couple years, it all gets fuzzy.
Yeah.
I've asked
It's
Mike.
like last
I've
year,
asked
dude.
Mike- no, I've asked Mike on the side, like, what happened with this? And he's like, you voted on it. What are you talking about? I'm like, oh, yeah.
Eric lives in the present.
you're working too hard, Eric.
I can't think about anything past a week or forward a week. It's just whatever's going on right now.
Okay, so nothing else kind of on the horizon for developments or anything like that. Okay, awesome. Next item. Anyone else on the board had questions or things they want to talk about?
Maybe just one comment. I think after rules and regs, should we start to think about how to holistically plan for like some, economic development in the town? We have a lot of ideas, about where to move certain things, certain, town buildings, and try to, I think maybe this year we could start to think about that sort of more holistically.
Great idea.
Yeah, so this would be the moving the DPW and taking their
Exactly.
land for business.
Yep.
Yeah.
Among other things.
Yeah, I'm open to that. Pam, maybe that's something you start with talking with Marie about, like what no, I know the budget is super tight this year, so
Yes, very much so.
maybe not the best time to bring it up. Wait till after town meeting, but yeah, I think it would be nice to get back to planning, especially now that we have the excellent document from the master plan.
Mhm.
Actually, I have one more thing, and this is like a huge bite. Is Sean Winter, the owner of the kitchen sink building, the Cracker Barrel building. His septic situation is pretty untenable. I mean, he has to have it emptied every month, and it costs a ton of money because he's on tight tank. And he was asking about, public sewer. So I don't know. At some point, after this town meeting, we should maybe start to investigate that and see what the paths are. Because I know in the past, we've looked at the current usage of the municipal and school septic, and it was like 30 to 40% used, and it's kind of an underutilized system. I mean, if there was a way to tie in the town center to that, I know at one point when Erica Uriardi was the town planner, we looked from like Harvard, or from like Manor Road to the HUD development, like how many bedrooms, like could we fit the entire road? But I mean, we should probably, and because that's in the master plan as well, we should probably start to look at that. And not just for the business, because it would be great for the businesses, because then you could potentially have, you know, a restaurant or something with food, you know, but like even just the house, it would add value to the houses, you know, eventually. But then there's the whole tie-in fee and all that stuff. But I mean,
Well, that's
it's a
just it.
huge-
I mean, I mean, we couldn't do something like that without, I
Oh,
mean,
of
they
course.
would have to absorb the majority of
Yeah.
the cost through
Well,
the
so when
tie-in fee.
Harvard did it, there was a betterment fee. And I think it was probably, I don't know, say $15,000. I forget what it was. There was some betterment fee and then there was a tie-in fee, you know. But it's like a huge boulder, of course, but I think maybe we should just start talking about it.
Eric, it's
Yeah.
been talked about, and a report was issued 2 years ago as part of the 10th engineering evaluation of the sewage treatment facility as to whether the remaining capacity of that could handle town center. And the answer is yes. And it was there in that report is a drawing of the area that could be covered with actual calculations of what the amount of sewage would be. And it would use a force main approach as opposed to what Harvard did. I spent a lot of time talking about Harvard with their approach. The one small problem when it gets to restaurants is that it would require a different type of technology than the one we currently have for the wastewater treatment facility. But
Okay.
I think it would be very well worthwhile to go back and take a look at that report, which is on the DPW website. And
Yeah,
it's only
okay, yeah,
18
that's
months
awesome.
old.
So it's done. So we just have to pass it.
Well, no, there's a little bit of finance and bureaucracy.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, yeah, and a lot of digging.
yeah. All right. Well,
But it's,
anyway,
you
yeah,
know,
I
your
think,
point is well taken, but
yeah,
you know, if we can stand on what Harvard has done and what we have done, we'll come into it with a much better perspective on what's possible and what it might cost and what the bureaucracy. Incidentally, there is already a sewer district in Bolton in concept, and the select board is in fact the board of that district. So
Mhm.
certain things have been done already.
So does that mean we have to have another town employee, like a sewer district and a sewer commissioner or something like that?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
Because you're collecting fees and
exactly.
all
And
that
that's
other
the
stuff.
trick. I mean, figuring out all the financing.
Pam can do it.
It's a revolving account.
Just add it to Pam's duties.
But I think it's well worthwhile to take a look at that report. It's very nicely done.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would add overall value to the town, residential and the business owned properties, you know.
Yeah.
I think this is, so here I'm going to drop this into,
I was gonna
Uh,
pull it up.
I can't drop an attachment into chat. Zoom, you suck. No, I guess I can't. Okay. Hang on. Let me.
Is there a link maybe you can share?
Yeah, I'm gonna drop that. Yes, this is on the DPW website from 2022.
Yep. Definitely worth reading. I mean,
Okay.
at least the summary.
Yeah, that's great. No, I'll definitely take a look. I've been involved in town stuff since like, I don't know, 2011, and I feel like it's been talked about since then. So
I've been involved in since 1977 and it's been talked about it since then.
well, I was born in 77, so there you go.
Okay. Anything else you want to talk about?
I didn't know this was here, so this is great.
Yeah, I didn't know it was here either. That is great.
Oh, there's some other gems in there. Condition
no.
assessment is another nice one.
Well, and it's fairly new too. I mean, I guess that's the best part.
Yeah, and we got it as, I, I worked with, DPW on putting together that proposal. And, it was sort of a byproduct of doing the assessment of the wastewater treatment facility. And we got it pretty cheaply, actually.
I gotta think with environmental stuff and how there's like just wetlands around all this, that whole zone we're talking about. There's got to be some DEP kind of like grants to like, to kind of like offload some of the cost that it would be to build this. I would think there'd be, something available because we have basically non-conforming lots with either leaching fields or cesspools. I don't know, like I don't know if everybody's passing Title V or what, if they sell the house, if the laws change and
No
all of a
houses
sudden,
on Main Street, so they must do something.
Yeah, they've all passed.
oh, they're all okay.
And some of them have shared systems in order to pass. But at the same time, DEP has been leaning on us. When I was chair of Board of Health, they were leaning on us to get a sewer system in place in the center
Right.
of town.
Right. So we've been so good getting grants in town. Maybe there's, some grant money that could push this along.
I
don't
don't
know.
know, it'd be nice to have a
Thanks, Bill.
grant writer.
To look into.
I
Pam,
don't think Marie would be enthusiastic at the moment.
I don't think we're hiring people right now.
okay. I'll stop adding things to the list.
Yeah.
I can look
okay.
at grants though. That I can do.
Yeah, definitely. Next item was approval of meeting minutes. I think we just have the October 9th one.
Yeah, I didn't get the 23rd in
Okay, no
time.
worries. So assuming people have read through them, I will make a motion to approve the planning board meeting minutes from October 9th, 2024.
Second,
Michael Gore,
Aye.
Bob Romer,
aye.
Eric Nyland,
Hi.
Austin Groner. Mike, I have you as absent, so you abstain from vote. Okay, the minutes passed by a vote of 4-0.
Okay, before we leave, anything else that people want to talk about? So our next meeting, January 22nd, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
What's the
And-
board's take on, do you typically do your zoning bylaw hearings in person or do you stick to Zoom for those?
We haven't had them since
We
COVID.
haven't had one.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Do you
I
have a
mean,
preference on how we schedule those? I just want to start thinking about,
I wouldn't mind meeting in person for it if people are going to show up.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, public hearing, we do get like maybe you'd get more people. I don't know. I don't care either way. Whatever people think.
maybe let me see what we can do for hybrid.
Yeah, it'd be nice, yeah.
I don't know,
That'd be
we
good.
have the technology to do it. We tried
Yeah,
it for the.
I'd rather do
One or
one
the
or
other.
the
Okay.
other, just to not have to deal with. I hate that when
Okay,
you have to deal with people remote. If we're gonna do it, if we're gonna have remote people, let's just do it fully remote. Otherwise, we'll do it in person.
Okay, so let's do it quick before bird flu.
What's that?
Before bird flu, you said?
It's a good thing we're not birds. We're all set.
Nah, it's catching.
March 31st, the open meeting law expires,
Oh,
which
really?
allows for remote participation. It hasn't been extended yet, but I'll keep you
They
in the
keep
loop.
extending it, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I can go either way. I did like doing them in person. I know it can be a hassle for you, Pam. I know it's better for people to jump on, but yeah, I could go either way on it. So
I'd like it in person.
I'm
yeah,
fine either
okay.
way. In person
I-
could be
I-
fun.
Yeah, I think if regardless of whether that whether it gets extended or not, we, as a board, we can certainly vote on what we want to do, whether we want to go back to in person or not. So,
You could do a mix if it's extended.
Yeah.
Meet for certain things and
Yeah.
do Zoom for others.
I mean, I will say, like, the ability to pull up plans and other documents on here, like, that's something that we don't have when we do it in person. And I know generally we'll have packets of some of the stuff, but it's great to be able to pull up Google Earth and look at, you know, streets and areas and stuff like that. I mean, that is one nice thing about doing these remote.
Well,
Well,
I mean,
we
where
could-
would it be?
Us.
In the Houghton building?
Is
Well,
it
I mean, we've
Wi-Fi?
always done them in
Yeah.
town hall in that building. I kind of prefer Houghton. There's more space and
Yeah,
the
Houghton
actually
works
works.
Because there you can project that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. That's something to think about.
All right, we have time. I just wanted to mention. It's
Okay. No, thanks.
a few months out.
Okay. Anyone else have anything before we adjourn?
I do. I need one more signature on the United Cultivation special permit so I can file it with the
Who
clerk.
is it?
I'll
Who is
be
it?
able to
Name
come by.
names.
I'll be able to come by tomorrow.
Eric. Boo. Boo.
I was even able to do it, and I came back from vacation today, Eric.
That Eric. I see that.
Came back from vacation to do it.
I didn't come back to do it. I just did it on the way home.
There's 3 copies in there, and each copy needs your signature.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. All right. With that, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you later, Pam. Thank you. Bye, everyone. We'll talk.
Yep.